Hi guys, how you going? So today we're just working on this garden bed down here. Well, we're turning it into a garden bed. And we had some compost bins in here for the last 12 months. And then we removed all the soil around the area because we're going to plant broad beans in here because there's lots of worms in here now because we put the compost bins down in here. And the topsoil was already good anyway. So we moved the compost bins out and put them in a different area, and we're digging this up to put our broad beans and some other plants in here. And we're going to put some corrugated iron sheeting on the back just so it stops the grass from coming through the fence and over. So yeah, I already moved one already, and that one's composting down, so we sort of turned it over and it will keep composting because we add layers of cardboard and, you know, the whole carbon nitrogen layers. And now we've got to do this one, and then we'll get a third one because that one will be the one that's maturing and it's done. This one will be the one we're using, and then the third one will be the one that is ready for the next composting. So yeah, we'd like to have like proper composting bays, but for now this is what we're using.
So this space has really been evolving over time. The beds have been changing. Grant's moved them around a little bit. So what have we got growing in here at the moment, babe, and what's about to come in?
Well, this bed is a bit of an experimental bed. We had some dill growing over there. We've got a globe artichoke that we've planted, it's doing well, and we planted a bunch of borage for the bees, even though it will set flower everywhere. But it was a bit of an experiment because it was a rush to sort of finish this bed before summer came in. And over that bed over there we've got zucchinis. Like, we've had so many zucchinis with
zucchini everything.
Yeah, next to the asparagus. And then we've got a bed that's full of lettuce and a bed that's full of carrots. And we did have snow peas in that one over there where the netting is. But the snow peas finished, so we just put daikon radish in there, and they've just popped up as baby seedlings. We're so lucky here because this soil, this topsoil we have, it's got a really good structure. This is a previous garden bed by the previous owners and the owners before them, so there's been so much soil and wood chips and compost being put in this area, so the soil's amazing here.
So in the kitchen garden here we had all of our garlic, which we harvested quite a while ago, which has been amazing, and our onion, which is now all finished, which is sad.
Totally.
So
but we'll be able to plant more before.
Yeah. So this edge is an amazing bit of garden to utilize for us to grow in, and that's what Grant was saying. This is going to be our new broad bean space, and then all along here is where we did have garlic and we were going to plant another crop at some point. So yeah, it's really cool how like this garden is changing and we're kind of figuring out how we want to use the space. It's completely changed from when we moved in. When we moved in, it was all in the ground, slightly raised veggie beds, garden beds, but we've changed it all now pretty much to above ground raised veggie beds, which works really well for us.
It's just easier for me too because the beds are all like almost 900 high.
Yeah. This is what we affectionately like to call happy soil. Hey babe.
Totally.
So this is basically all of our kitchen scraps, isn't it? Kitchen scraps, papers, tea bags.
Yeah, it is. But this one here, when we made apple cider with a bunch of our friends, the apple cider was put in here, and it's almost 12 months ago now.
Yeah.
So you can still see a lot of eggshells in the bottom. But eggshells take a long time to sort of break down. It's
actually, I wonder, like, let us know if you're surprised by how much can go in the compost. Because actually I was, when we first started really composting for our own garden, I was surprised at how much we could put in there, and Grant was like, yeah, chuck it in. So it's a lot. It's a lot. I reckon we empty our little compost bins in the kitchen maybe like 2 times a week on average.
Yeah, we eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. We eat a lot of fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
And the kids are eating more and more fruit and vegetables, which is great.
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. And then it breaks down like this, basically into amazing, healthy soil that's alive with, what are the main ingredients to a good compost, babe?
It's not quite ready yet.
No.
It probably needs another 6 months.
That's the point of the 3-bay system.
Yeah, it probably needs another 6 months because
Yeah.
it's not hot composting. So
Yeah.
we sort of have to make sure we add enough cardboard or newspaper to have that carbon nitrogen ratio.
Yeah.
Otherwise
Very
it
important.
can go anaerobic and really smelly, and
Yeah.
white flies and maggots can come.
Yeah.
And we don't put any meat or fish in the compost.
No. And now,
so we put
actually,
everything else
it's
there.
funny now having chickens because we've got to share some of it with the chickens, don't we?
Yeah.
The garden has to share the scraps with the chickens. So
Yeah, they love it. They
Yeah.
love the food scraps.
So, as Grant's doing this, do you want to tell us a bit of an idea, babe, behind the 3-bay composting system, or kind of what we're trying to do when we get our third and final compost bin that will go here? What's the idea behind it?
We're still learning about composting, and you know, you have to turn it once if you do hot composting, and the pile has to be a metre square for it to break down and heat up efficiently, because this type of composting isn't as efficient, which is fine. It's still a good way to compost. One's finished, so
Yeah.
it will sit here for another 6 months, and then we'll put it into one of our garden beds.
Yeah.
And if we don't use it as a top dressing, then we'll use it at the bottom of a new garden bed to really put a lot of life into the bottom of the garden.
Yeah.
Because there's like hundreds of thousands of worms and all the microorganisms in here. So this is an example of what we put on our compost. You got some leftover cabbage, the eggshells from all our chickens. We try to crush them up. There's some spoiled fruit from our fruit orchard, whatever the chickens don't get.
Tissue.
There's some tissues, a bit of carbon. There's some zucchini from our big zucchinis that we grew. Some plums from our plum tree that it didn't quite, use, and the chickens didn't get to eat.
So what's the main what's the main thing that this will break down into? If you look at all that kitchen
this is
scrap,
all nitrogen.
Yeah.
So we add a layer of nitrogen, and then we add a layer of cardboard, newspaper. So whenever we go to the shops here where we live, we don't get where we live, we don't get plastic bags, we get boxes. So we buy stuff from the supermarket, and we don't have to buy a lot at the moment because we're growing a lot. And so we get given cardboard boxes, and then we rip the boxes up, and then we put them in an area. Like every time we do a shop, or we rip the boxes up, keep them, and then when we need to add a carbon layer, we just simply bring the box out, throw the ripped up cardboard in there to create a layer. That way you don't have to do it while you're adding the nitrogen as well, because it's too long, and so we pre-do it, I guess.
And the thing I really like about composting is like it can be done by anyone. Like you could do this kind of thing in a backyard in kind of urban settings. You can do it on this scale, and there's all different sorts of way that you can compost. But like one of the things that I really loved and found quite surprising is that it's much less intimidating than I thought it was originally. Like it's a very simple, like quite a simple system when you're just reusing the scraps from your kitchen essentially.
Yeah.
And instead of them going in the rubbish bin to landfill, they can come into compost and break down into this amazing soil, which is really cool.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, we're able to take care of a lot of our own waste on our property, and we find that digging the compost bins into the ground about 50 or 100 mil stops the vermin from trying to get in there. So this is some of our broad beans that we started.
So these will go in that space that we showed you outside.
Yeah.
They're looking very happy in the polytunnel.
So the broad beans will go in in the next week or two. They're pretty advanced in the pot, so they need to be planted in the next week. Do some of them anyway. And we'll put them in that area, and then they'll grow through autumn, and they'll sort of be a bit stagnant in winter, and then we come into spring, boom, they'll start flowering, and we'll have an early crop of broads, which will be great. It's the only way to get them in springtime. So thanks again for watching, guys, and hope to see you in the next one. Yo!